Hello guys, I'm Oscar and welcome to Scouting for Goals. In this weekly series, I show you stats from the Fantasy Football Scouts members area to help you with your FPL decisions. If you're not a member yet, there's still a 20% discount in the description below if you like these tables and find them useful and want to play around with the data on your own. Now let's get into the video. First topic will be to talk about the defenders that are the weakest links in so many of your teams. White, Veltman and Tsimikas are almost likely not going to be great assets in the near future. I'd be more eager to transfer out White or Tsimikas rather than Veltman, but transferring out either one that you may own will be a good move in the end, and I'll explain why. Let's start with White, who has been out due to illness, and Arsenal as a team just ain't that exciting, which we can see from the stats table that I've made where it's showing teams' defensive stats and it's sorted on expected goals conceded, where they rank second to worst, and they are also joint worst together with Newcastle for most big chances conceded. I am a Veltman and Tsimikas owner myself, and I don't like to spend transfers in defense. Veltman is potentially just gone for one game week, which I hope he is, but I could see an argument for swapping him to Livramento or maybe Dyer, who might be the best 4.5 defender at the moment. There are oftentimes a view of it just being one game week away for someone to come back, and then it just keeps rolling and you're not rewarded for your patience. So I can definitely see and understand people who are not gonna be patient with Veltman basically. And the natural replacement for these guys is Livramento. Southampton aren't great. I'm not sure if he's nailed in that team. The eye test says he should be, but there's of course competition for that spot. They've lost their arguably best center back in Vestergaard, and we can see in the stats table that they are also a bottom side at the moment. However, they've played two tricky fixtures to be fair and got a result versus Manchester United, so they're not awful either. Regarding Tsimikas, the main thing about selling him is having flexibility in the Liverpool slot. Jota or Robertson could easily be someone you'll want in your team soon. In the end, is it a priority transfer to get one of these players out? No, probably not for most teams, but it's still a good move that should be considered if it is the weakest link you have in your team. Is Toney a hold or a sell? That's the next thing we're going to talk about, and I'm going to use my scoring system of looking at three parameters. First, ranking his expected points, then his underlying stats, and then I'm also going to evaluate him based on the eye test and other strategic considerations, which will be put all into one final verdict if he's a hold or a sell. The players I'd consider getting in for Toney are Lukaku, DCL, and none of those are really in that price range and are very expensive, so the main talking point instead will be Adam Armstrong in Southampton. So is it worth downgrading Toney for Adam Armstrong? Toney has decent expected points, as you'll see here, so let's just give him a 3.5 rating here. He is good value for money, but also note that Armstrong has the same expected points over a couple of game weeks here, however. They are also really close in the underlying stats department, and you can't really ask for much more for that price range. They should return on average every other third or every other game, and that's what their underlying stats are implying they'll be able to do. I'll give Toney a rating of 3.5 here as well. He's been doing pretty good in terms of the underlying stats. Now for the analysis part, it's so close in their projected points and underlying stats that Armstrong is favored by me just because he's simply cheaper. On the other hand, since they are so close in expected points and since they are so close in price, I think for most teams it's not worth doing the transfer. I want to get rid of Toney myself soon, and if your team is perfect, then maybe just go ahead and do that now if you don't know what else to do. But it is a luxury transfer. If it was 1 million in cash difference between the two, then that's an okay sideways move because of the cash that you free up. With all this in mind, let's also consider the eye test and say that Brentford looks strong at home, like any promoted team, but Toney plays a lot with his back towards his goal. And it's just a feeling that I have that the defenders are going to mark him to such a high degree and that he won't get many clear-cut chances because he's their best player. So there are some doubts for me regarding Toney, but I'm going to say that he's a hold for the absolute majority of managers unless you have a really, really, really great team. Lastly, we'll discuss Lukaku, to buy him or not to buy him. If we look at his projected points, they don't look as great as Salah's and Fernandes, so I have to give him a rating of 3 here, considering his high price. In terms of underlying stats, he smashed it last game, but at the same time it's just 1 game sample size. With that said, he couldn't have impressed us more than he did. Maybe if that header in the crossbar was scored, people would be even more eager to buy him, so I have to give him a rating of 5 in the underlying stats. He has a higher expected goals and higher expected goal involvement versus Salah, as the table shows, despite playing 1 game less so far. Now on to my analysis of Lukaku. If you don't own any of the super premiums in midfield, I'd be more eager to go for Lukaku, but selling either Bruno or Salah and then making another transfer to restructure your team is not how I recommend using your transfers. It could of course work, but I wouldn't mind waiting at least 1 more game week to buy Lukaku. I'm sure he will look great versus Liverpool and show that he's gonna create a lot of problems versus the elite defenses in the league, and that he's gonna be fixture proof, but it is still Liverpool. I don't really see him scoring more than 1 goal, so for me it's a wait and see, 1 more week at least. We don't know also if he takes the penalties yet, which is another reason to stay away for a while longer. To come to a conclusion, should we buy Lukaku or not? His fixtures aren't great and you need to restructure your team, but at the same time the eye test says that maybe he don't need great fixtures to still match the other premiums. I'm going to say don't get him yet, but that's maybe mostly due to me being scared that he'll bang for you. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching, and if you liked it, give it a nice thumbs up to let us know that you did, and good luck this game week.